So last night, I was checking my pictures and I realized something. Phil was 2 years into med school. And if he would have graduated, he would have become Dr. Phil. What did she say? Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. How's it going? That's good. I scared little T. All right, if you enjoy this channel, think about supporting it on Patreon. There's a link in the description. I would really appreciate it. All right. So we're continuing with Philip Markoff's interrogation. We're about 15 minutes in, starting from there. Quick recap is he really didn't want to talk. They sat down. He was like, can you get me a lawyer? And they were like, well, we can't just get you a lawyer. You can have a phone call and try to get a lawyer. But he's like, well, I don't have any money. I'm a broke college murderer and a gambling addict. I'm a broke college murderer gambler. And so I don't know how to get a lawyer. And they're like, well, you can get a lawyer, but we don't just have a lawyer to give you. And he's like, all right, well, I'll just get a lawyer then. And they're like, okay. And then they do a really good job, the detectives, of I guess not getting him, or getting him to keep talking. So he's like, really going back and forth, like, I just think I'll get a lawyer. I don't know what's going on. I want a lawyer. And then they're like, we're looking at you because all these tips are coming in for this robbery and homicide, and there's security camera pictures that look similar to you. And because of that and other things, Jesus. Because of that and some other things, you're a person of interest in this case. And he really doesn't take the other things, Phil, very well. He's like, what other things? And they're like, well, we can't talk unless you want to talk. You said you wanted a lawyer. So did you want a lawyer or did you want to talk? And so they get him to talk because he really just wants the other things. And as you can imagine, most of the interrogation is just, I can't remember, because it's just the week before. And a lot of it is, this happened at the Westin Hotel. Were you at the Westin Hotel? Because this picture looks like you were at the Westin. And Phil's just like, I don't know. I was at the Cheesecake Factory 2 weeks ago. And it's like, okay, well, what about last week? And he just and he always kind of has this annoyed tone, which is funny because it's like, we're here because of you, Phil. No one wants to be here. We're here because of you. If everybody could go golfing right now or whatever, then that would be fun. But you killed an escort and you tied another one up, and then you tried to tie another one up, and the pimp husband came in. So we got to deal with this. And I'll say that Phil does quite a bit with the I don't remember. Remember, he's a smart guy, and he does pretty well for a while with the whole, I don't know, I don't remember. I could have been. It's like, you could have been at the bar at the Westin, or you were. And he's like, I don't know, I don't remember. And the cops are funny. The detectives are funny because it's like they get sort of stuck in this, just him being like, you don't remember, and they're just like, if I were to give you a date, you think you could just take a shot at it? Try to remember if you were there. Just take a shot. And Phil's like, I went to the Cheesecake Factory with my friends and his girlfriend. And I was exhausted last night. And they were like, what are the friends names that you went to the Cheesecake Factory with, and one of their names was like Yan Min Shui or something, Shui. And in my tired state, I just heard him go, I went with my friend Shmeda. That would have been great if he just would have been like, I went to Cheesecake Factory with Shmeda. It was fun. We got the cheesecake. Um, yeah, the detectives, I think people from Boston are just funny. I've never been, but a lot of really good stand up comedians come out of Boston, and some of the best ever are from Boston. And it's just a funny town. Like at one point, the detective is saying, like, you probably study a lot being a med school student. That's the sentence he's getting is like, what do you study a lot? But the way he phrases it is like, what are you what are you balls deep in the books? And I don't know. I feel like just people from Boston are funny. Like, there's no reason to say the word balls when you're asking someone if they study a lot. But he just worked it in beautifully. Like, what are you, balls deep? What are you, balls deep in the books, kid? Say if I were to give you, like, a date, you think you could take a shot at it? Try to remember while you were there. And Phil is just sticking with, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm just like, I'm a med school. I study a lot. So, like I said, it feels like it's going pretty well. They established it's the pictures. The security camera pictures are a strong resemblance to you, Phil. And you need to help us either move past you, or and so up to about, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes, it seems like the interrogation is going pretty good. And then to me, it just stalls horribly in this period that it's in. And it doesn't feel like the detectives really turn up the heat. They just sort of, it's like they kind of get Phil on his heels a little bit with the whole, like, these security camera footage and other things. And but it's just a lot of like, oh, I don't remember. And then the detective's like, oh, you don't remember? You don't remember? And Phil's like, no, I don't. And then the cops are just like, all right. If I were to give you, like, a date. I do think that, like I said, the cop does a good job of pressuring at the beginning, and then it's like he doesn't go the next level of, like, it stays the whole time of just like, are you sure you weren't there? And it was like, I don't remember. And then he kind of is just okay with that answer. And my strategy way earlier would have just been, I would have said, Phil. Hi, Phil. Here's the thing, Phil, is there's more cameras than you can believe in that Prudential Center and all around that Prudential Center. And here's the thing is, it's real easy to have the time of when these incidents occurred. Because we have the victim and we have the emails of saying when this person was going to meet these women. And we can check the cameras, all those cameras in the Prudential Center, right before the meeting and then right after. And in both hotels, actually in all three hotels, from the one 60 miles away with the pimp husband, in all three hotels, we can find security cameras of someone that looks very close to you walking in. And then, very close to you. Big nose, tall. All three of the hotels, that can't be a coincidence. Every single one of them, you walk in and then walk out at the perfect time. Okay? Also, Craigslist. anytime you send a message on Craigslist, a computer nerd can look up where you sent it from, and it came from your apartment. So, with all the cameras, Phil, we have a stack of pictures of you walking in hotels this tall. And we have the IP address coming from your apartment. And then there was one other thing. Oh, yeah. And also, Phil, you didn't cover your face. So the first escort ID'd your picture. We put a line of pictures, people that looked like you, and she pointed at you one and said, "This is him 1,000%. So what the fuck are we going to do, Phil? Okay? I don't want to hear you don't remember. It was a week ago. You're a med school student. You're taking hematology. Hematology, Phil. If you can remember how to spell hematology, then you can remember if you were at the Westin. What's going on, Phil?" That's what I would have done. And that's what I kept picturing what this guy was going to do, and it just never gets there. It just stays in this weird, like, he's even just like, before I'll answer a question, he'll be like, "I know you probably don't have like a specific memory, but were you at the Westin?" And then it makes it easy for Phil, because he's like, "Yeah, I don't have a specific memory." And he's like, "Okay. All right." So, here's what I would have said if I was Phil, because he doesn't know what the other things, Phil. He doesn't know what the other things are. So he knows that he is on camera walking through these hotels. So what I would have said was, I study all the time, and I don't have really many friends. So as a break to studying, I just go to the Prudential Center and I wander around. I wander around through the hotels, and I go to the, maybe I'll go to the bar and get a cocktail. And I'll go shopping, or I'll just wander around and just blankly look around as a way to have a mental break from studying. That's what I would have said. But it doesn't really work because of the other things, Phil. The other things. Okay, so let's just keep moving through it. They bring up both hotels. So now Phil's sitting there, and they're bringing up the Marriott. You familiar with the Marriott? If I were to give you like a date, were you at the Marriott? You think you could take a shot at it? So they're asking him now about the Westin and the Marriott. And so he's probably thinking, you could tell Phil is just getting annoyed. And he's very arrogant, and he has this, it's like when you're talking to a spoiled kid, and they don't want to talk, and they're just like, "Whatever, okay, I don't know. And just like, "Phil, well, I'm sorry you're so annoyed, but you killed an escort, Phil. Other things, Phil." And, but again, I really think that Phil was able to do a lot with the "I don't remember" thing, because they're like, so you would think that a broke college kid would remember if he got like a hotel yesterday. And Phil's like, "Well, I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, I got a hotel tonight in Foxwoods." It's like, it seems absurd for that to be even an answer. It's like, "Were you in the Westin last week?" And he's like, "I don't know. I can't remember, but I got a hotel room tonight at Foxwoods." And then it goes in that direction for a while. So the detective's like, "Oh, so you're going to Foxwoods?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then they start talking about his gambling. And I think that this is probably one of the most unexplored areas of this case. No one really knows the extent of Phil's gambling. And I bet it was bad. I think that that's why he needed money. And I think it progressed into like a power dominating thing, violence, sort of a high from all that. But I think it started with him just being like, this is an easy way for me to get money so I can gamble. Gambling was his favorite thing and seems to be his only vice. And that's a brutal vice. It's a brutal vice. I would almost rather, because at least with like a drug vice or something, you're not always blowing your money. There's like a YouTube wormhole that you can go down where gambling addicts kind of do vlogs. So they'll come out and they're sitting in their car in the parking lot of a Vegas casino, just being like, I lost everything today. Just talking to the camera. You know, it's hot in Vegas and they're just like sweating. It's like, I got paid today and I owe for rent, and I'm trying to get my guitar out of the pawn shop, and it's like they're almost crying, and it's like I had rent due and I had bills due, and I said I wasn't going to come down here, and I came down here and I lost my whole paycheck. I lost everything. And it's like, oh God, I am so glad that I don't like to gamble, because that just, it's like on top of having addiction, which is just rough, your addiction is you give all your money away, which causes you to just, like in Phil's case, live in this crazy doubled life. Always just lies, lies, lies. Lies, broke, you're having to explain why there's no money. And so I couldn't find anything about this, because as people that know how this thing ends, it's just after what, there was like, well, I guess they're not going to investigate anymore. But so he takes out a ton of loans for med school and to live off of, college kid style. And think about that as a gambler. You just get this fat chunk of money into your account at the beginning of the semester. And for a gambler, wonder if he spent it all. His girlfriend was like, yeah, we used Phil's money to pay all the bills and everything. And, but it's like, what if Phil just spent his entire loan or something? That could have, and he's probably sitting there just wanting to gamble so bad, and he's broke, and he's got this gun, and he's like, hey, if I go just rob an escort, that could be $800 to just have fun with. And so I think the gambling addiction was a lot. They ask him, like, so you like to gamble? And he's like, I go to Foxwoods once in a while, but I don't know if I gamble a lot. I gamble a little bit, but, I don't know if a lot. And then it gets to a point where, and this is, if I was a detective, I would use this strategy a lot. I think this strategy just makes a lot of sense. And it's like, how do we eliminate you as a suspect? This part of he goes into a monologue. He's like, part of our job is proving who didn't do it. So, you understand what I'm telling you, Phil? Can you work with us here? And it's pretty, normally it's pretty easy if you didn't do it to just, there's something that will eliminate you. And Phil doesn't have anything. He just doesn't remember. I don't know. I don't remember. He does a pretty good job of, I was noticing, his I don't remember technique is, he'll say, something very vague, like, I don't know. I don't think I remember. And then he'll say something like, I think my dad may have stayed at that hotel, like, at some point I might have been in there, but like the Cheesecake Factory, I do shop. Like, he'll say something like that. And then when the detective goes, oh, like, when was that? Was it this last week? He'll just be like, no, I don't know. I don't remember. And then turn on the annoyed, like, I don't know. I don't remember. And then at 27 minutes in, so about halfway, the detective said, do you have anything to do with Craigslist? And I think at that point, Phil has to know that he's not in a good position with this whole thing, because they got all the security cameras, and then now the detective is just asking him, just probably hearing a detective say Craigslist, I'm sure just made Philip's insides just Craigslist, Phil. And then he kind of does, but it doesn't really go anywhere. He's just like, I use Craigslist to try to find an apartment. Sorry. Phil doesn't have an accent. And then he kind of tries like a Tammy, maybe, like maybe Shanann did it, just to try to get some sort of confession going. And so he goes into a strategy, which I also think is solid. Goes into a strategy. He's like, maybe you were there, Phil, and maybe, something happened. And basically saying, like, maybe you were there and there was something happened, and maybe she was just mad at you, like, and is lying. There's two sides to every story. It's like there's two sides to every story, so we got to hear yours, because if it's just this girl's side, then it's not looking good. So it's like, was it her fault? Did something happen with her? Trying to be like, just trying to get him to put himself in that hotel at that time. And Phil is just going, no. And he's getting really annoyed. And so he's like, were you there? Something happened? And Phil says, no. Are you sure? No. And Phil goes, I answered that 4 times. And then the cop's like, okay, I can see you getting a little bit annoyed, okay, with me. But we're just trying to take a shot at this whole thing. And I love how they say the word short. So you don't recall. And I think Phil just knows he's screwed, so he's just starting to clam up. Doesn't really have a goal. Yeah, part of me as this goes on, so say now we're maybe like 30, 35 minutes in of a 48-minute, and I sort of started getting annoyed with the detectives, because I like their... He seems like a funny guy. He seems to, I don't know, be a good interrogator, except it sort of stalls out. And I was thinking last night, it's like, did you even want a confession, or did you just want to talk about how he doesn't remember? Because you got to turn up the heat. Like, I understand slow playing it. I love the slow play. 15, 20 minutes in, let him ramble, and then you got to bring the hammer down at some point. And it just never comes. He never brings up the IP address. He never does anything as far as, like, not lie about the evidence, but like I said, I would have said, Phil, hi Phil, there's a stack this high of pictures of you, lie a little bit, say clear pictures of you, security camera pictures. You know how many cameras you walked in front of, Phil? Why were you at the hotel? But instead, he goes on these long, like, monologues where Phil's just sitting there listening. And it's like, that you can't make this, we're not going to be able to make this right, but, we could at least be honest, hear your side of the story, could be honest. And kind of does the cookie jar technique, like, hey, when we were kids, you got caught, you got to blah, blah, blah. And Phil isn't saying anything. There's these huge paragraphs being said by the detective, and Phil just sitting there, and then the detective will get done with this long paragraph, and then Phil just sit there, and then the detective will be like, are you nodding yes? And Phil is just, at this point, like, I don't know. I can't help you. What you're saying doesn't apply to me, and you're just saying these long paragraphs, and I don't even know what I'm agreeing to. And he's kind of right. It makes it easy. If the detective is just going on these long, like, if you were a kid and the cookie jar, it really makes it easy to be like, I don't know. I mean, what you said, I heard it, but it doesn't really apply to me. That, I think questions are better. Like even just, are you telling the truth right now? I remember Graham asked Chris that the first night. He just looked at him and said, "Are you telling the truth?" It's like that. What a great question to ask in an interrogation instead of like, the cookie jar, take a shot at it. And then, oh yeah, they talk about email addresses, but again, he never is like, is the sex addict 8335 your email address? He just goes, "Do you have email addresses?" And Phil goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "What are they?" And then he reads them to him, and then the detective moves on. It's like, that's a great line of questioning. Just stick with that. But Phil's clamming up, clamming. No, the cop's like, this is what. Oh yeah, so Phil's getting annoyed. And then I kind of liked what the detective said. He's like, "Well, I'm sorry that you're annoyed, but this is what happens when you dance around the truth. Just be honest." We can't change it, but we can make it right. And then Phil hasn't really talked. He's just sitting there. And then Phil asks for a lawyer again. He's like, "Can I just have a lawyer? I don't know. You're saying these giant paragraphs. I don't even know what I'm agreeing to. I want a lawyer." And right at that moment, the other detective comes in and sits down. And he's like, "Hey, Phil. All right, Phil, you don't want to talk to him. You're annoyed with the questions. Let me answer different questions." But Phil's like, "No, I want a lawyer." And it was like, it's too late. You needed to change. I think 15 minutes, 20 minutes before, that detective should have taken a break and the new detective and switched it up. Because Phil kind of had the detective on his speed a little bit. He's just like, "I don't know. I don't remember. I could have been in the West End, but I just don't remember, And if that other detective would have... So the other detective tries to come in and save it. Like, "Phil, I know you're saying you want a lawyer, but I mean, what you're saying is you don't want to talk to us, but we could keep talking." And Phil's just like, "Can you just get me a lawyer? I want a lawyer." And the second detective that comes in is really trying to hang on, like claw on, like, "Let's just keep talking for a little bit." And he's like, "No, I just want a lawyer." And the first detective's like, "All right, we're going to end it." And it ends there. And this video's getting long. That's where I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to talk about Megan's interrogation on the next one. Thank you to everybody that has subscribed and liked and commented. It helps me a lot. Thanks to all the Patreons. You're amazing. Everybody's amazing. Love y'all. True Crime Loser out. What did she say?